Hello, I'm SME Banking Club's manager for CE region, Olena. Welcome to our pilot episode of SME Banking Club Podcast series. Today, we'll be speaking about digital banking and digitalization in SME banking. And my guest is Luka Ivicevic, co-founder of Penta, digital SME bank which is to launch this year. Hi Luka, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me.
So Luka, before we'll start asking you about Penta, tell us at the beginning a little bit about yourself and Penta's core team. Where do you come from and what is your background?
Okay, personally, I grew up in New York actually, and that's where I started my first startup actually in the U.S. And in the meantime, I met my co-founders in Europe. Moved here about 7 years ago, and ultimately, with all of our startups, we had a lot of problem with our banking. From opening up the bank account, we had to leave our office, usually in the cold rain, to go to the branch and send money abroad, or manually do our invoicing or accounting, and or call customer service to clear our account for the hundreds of problems. So, as a business, we were really struggling, and we were wasting a lot of time doing our business banking, and we absolutely hated that. And being the tech guys and the startup guys we decided that we wanted to build a bank account that makes banking easier, so that businesses focus less on their banking and more on their business and actually innovating. And so essentially that's our core mission at Penta. And some of the startups we had exited. So we have experience from growing a small company to a big company, and we're using that experience now to tailor a bank account that really makes it easy for a growing startup.
Mm-hmm. And how many people now are in your core team? How many? 2, 3? How many you are?
So as founders, we have a core founding team of 6 people, which started 1 person, 2 people, 3, 4, 5, and then essentially grew from there. And then we have in total about 12 people working with us at the moment. But now we're hiring way more than that, about double or even 2.5 above that in the coming weeks ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. So Penta is totally online SME bank with no branches and purely online onboarding with no paper agreements. There's a lot of buzz about you in the web. Please tell us, what is Penta and how exactly you are different from other banks and even from other fintechs?
So like you said, there's no paper, there's no friction. There's no problems around that. We're just making it really easy. From the account opening, we can open you an account in 3 minutes.
Okay.
While the average is on average 4 weeks. But what really makes us different is that we're not building anything on our own. So we're building from a technology standpoint. The majority, I'd say even 90% of the technology we're using are all open source, from Node to Express to different frameworks, which is completely open source. And we don't want to build any products on our own because we don't think we can add value there. Instead, we think that there are amazing fintech startups and business startups out there building absolutely incredible tools to help make managing your business much easier. So from automating your accounting to sending money abroad, as well as other tools for loans and invoicing and factoring that we want to integrate. So we're actually inviting the developer community as well as the startup community to come integrate with us and come build with us essentially. And essentially that's our main differentiating factor, because we're always going to include the best products of today and tomorrow in one place very easily.
Mm-hmm. So you are like a marketplace or a hub with integrated best products for SME customers.
Exactly, yeah. We're just putting it all in one place because a lot of the current startups or banks are spending hundreds of thousands or if not millions on their own products, their own accounting. But we don't think that's smart. We think that there's great tools out there, and we want to just put them in one place. So to give options to startups, because a lot of the banks lock you in. They tell you have to use this, you have to do that. But we believe in essentially giving freedom to the business to choose. Because if you don't give them freedom, then you don't give them choice. And if you don't give them choice, you're holding them back from doing what they think is best for their company. And we know this from our own startups. So we always want to make the best choices, which are the easiest to use. And we make it very easy to choose those choices and to make those choices as a startup, especially since it's a big thing to focus on.
What products have you already integrated into your platform, and what are the providers, if you can say?
So the providers I'm not going to disclose yet. However, so we're specifically targeting high tech startups, 3 to 15 employees. So 3, you're really small, you're growing, and I forgot to mention actually, Penta is completely free, and it's going to be free forever. And so as a startup, when you're just starting out, you just need a basic bank account to send and receive some money. And you're not really focusing on banking. You're more focusing on getting your team together, building out your product. You don't really care about your banking or your accounting. And so we've tailored the account for a small startup just starting out. And as you're growing, and we call it pay as you grow, as you're growing, you get options to add different services. So one of our pay as you grow options is, for example, roles and permissions, which you give roles and permissions to different employees in the companies to approve different transactions. So you can tell somebody, for example, if our CEO tells me, for example, like Luka has a budget of, let's say, X amount, which he can then use. So then I have power over the bank account to use it. It essentially gives freedom to all the employees in the company as well for specific budgets and specific things. On top of that, we have FX, so you can send money abroad really cheaply. Instead of paying 2-3% at your normal bank, we can do it instantaneously or essentially within the next day at a very low rate, more of a decimal point than a percentage. And on top of that, we'll have a great cash flow management tool to help you manage and forecast your cash flow.
Do you have a banking license, or you will be working without a banking license?
So we're partnering with Solaris Bank at the moment. They're based in Berlin, and I think they're absolutely fantastic at what they do, and we have a very good relationship with them. So Solaris Bank is providing us with some of this, with some of the technology and the banking license side of it.
So when are you exactly to launch? When?
So we plan to launch actually late spring, early summer. Right now we have a really large number of beta subscribers that I won't disclose just yet, because we're going to have a big press release in the coming weeks about that. But so we have a large beta subscriber list that we're engaging with and speaking with every day to help optimize our product, and we're currently testing. So we should be ready to launch in the coming months.
Are you launching in Germany only?
Yeah. So we're actually only German based, and we're only offering the startup bank account or business bank account for German SMEs. And then we essentially plan to expand, but we want to get it right in Germany. We feel that the market is we feel that the startups here are fantastic, if not the best in Europe. And we've had startups in Berlin, several startups in Berlin, as well as in France and the UK. So we understand the landscape pretty well. But in Germany, it's probably the best market in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of the services are missing here that in some places that they don't have. For example, as in Paris or London, where some of the technology is a little bit more advanced. So we want to bring that here to Germany.
How do you feel the competition actually on German market for launching a new banking project?
Well, our really biggest competitors are Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, and the big guys. Any other fintech startup or fintech bank like us is, I'd say, more of a partner than it really is a competitor, because we're all trying to get this voice out there that there's something unique, and there's a better way to do your banking, whether it's personal or business banking. So it's really a group effort to help others understand that their lives could be much easier, and I think that's a shared goal that we all have in this fintech community of really making a difference in the way people bank.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how do you exactly plan to compete with big banks?
Well, it's about really understanding where you start. It's about the approach. So, like I said, we're planning to target, or we are targeting high tech companies, high tech startups, just like us, because we understand their needs the best, and so that's our approach is starting from there and trying to understand this market the best, where we can add the most value. At the moment, we can add value for other companies, but we think we can add the most value for the high-tech companies because we know them best, we understand their needs the best. We've also interviewed face-to-face over 100 companies to really understand their needs. So we have a lot of information and a lot of know-how and a pretty large network that we're using to help us build and create something that actually creates value for people.
Mm-hmm. And can you define the main needs of such fintech startups and why or what exactly banks do not understand or do not feel in these needs?
Well, it's not
What you
only
find?
fintech startups; it's high-tech startups as a whole. But the problem is us high-tech startups. We're focused on innovating. We're out there. We want to change things. We have these big, bold dreams of pushing our product out there, which thousands or even millions of people are going to use and get value out of. So we're all focused on our team, on our product development, on building a really good product that creates value. And we don't want to waste our time going to the bank, speaking to the bank, doing our invoices manually, doing our accounting manually, having to mess around with this whole boring banking process that's just outdated, that just doesn't make sense. And so that's essentially the need of it that we at least feel. And we're targeting the people which feel the way we do. And of course, some people may not agree. We're not building a bank account for everyone. It's more or less people who believe in innovation and who have this belief of what most high tech founders do. And essentially, that's who we're building for.
And what are your first plans for customers acquisitions? How do you exactly plan to target your customers? And what is hypothesized most efficient marketing channel for you?
Well, I don't want to get into too much details about that, but it's really just about understanding needs. Some people pay a lot for Google AdWords, others pay for Facebook ads. There's a lot of ways that are unique, and some people have found really good success in using some of those channels to get to people. But I feel it's more about if you can get it right for one company, for three companies, for 10 businesses. If you're creating value for 10 businesses, it's something that essentially grows on its own. So it's really about understanding. It's really about getting it right for a dozen. And then if you can get it right for a dozen, you can get it right for 1,000 or even 100,000. So we're starting small, and we're focusing on the small segment first, and until we get that right. So.
Luka, what are your challenges at the very moment? And actually, what are the main challenges for launching digital SME banking? I can imagine there are a lot of them, but what are the main ones for you?
So a lot of people are going to say it's regulation. People are going to say it's compliance. It's this. It's that. This is all difficult. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. But I'd say the biggest challenge is what all other startups have, and it's not. I don't think it's something unique only to fintech. I think it's really for everyone. It's about getting the team right. It's about the chemistry within the team. It's about how you communicate internally. It's understanding your investors and speaking to them and keeping them updated and asking for advice. And it's bringing the best ideas to the table that I'd say is the biggest challenge. And we're lucky to have such good people around us. So we're able to tackle all the problems around compliance, regulation, funding, and things like that. So our approach is really the team comes first. So we're focusing on getting that right, and we're doing that pretty well with our advisory board, our investors, and internally our founders and our early co-founders or early employees. So that's our focus. If we can get that right, and for now we have, then we can do anything.
What is your total team now at the moment? How many people counts? And are you all based in Berlin or not?
Yeah, so we're all based in Berlin. We were at the Startup Bootcamp Accelerator in London for 3 months, so we were a bit scattered. Every other week, somebody was coming in. In London, we were 13 in total, and then now in Berlin, we lost a few people because they essentially stayed in London, and now we've gotten back to that number. And like I said in one of the earlier questions, we're planning to hire about double or even double and a half of that current number.
you as a small business company, do you use your Penta's current account at the moment? And
Yeah, absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, we're using it as well. I mean, in the beginning, it's like I said, with any other startup, you use your product and you're like, what is this? You know, it works a little funky in the beginning, but this was this was a few months ago, and now we're using it more and more, and we're understanding what we need, and what some of the other people that are using it, that are testing with us, they're helping us understand what we need. So it's a lot of testing. But yeah, absolutely, we all use the account, and it's saving us a massive amount of time compared to our other startups.
Do you have another business account in some bank?
We do, but I'm not going to say which one.
I'm not asking. Okay, and what is your actual strategy with your customers? Do you want that your account will be the first and the only account for the company, or you can imagine that this can be a second, third account for a company because this is just maybe simpler to do some payments like PayPal, for example? How do you see it?
So, like I said, our focus is obviously we offer the deposit account, payments, sending in, sending money out, and our target is to be the number one bank account and the only bank account that a startup's going to have, because if you're not using us, then essentially the goal is that you're wasting time using another bank. It's just going to take you longer to do everything else, from synchronizing all your transaction data to synchronizing everything you need for your accounting. You don't need to be synchronizing anything when you're using Penta. It just happens on its own. We automate your banking so that you can focus on being creative and innovating. So we want this to be your only bank account, and for now it's proven to be our only one. The only reason we have another one is because we have a large investment that we're holding in another bank account. So until we're ready, technically speaking, to put in our whole investment and funds into our bank account, then we will. So it's more of a matter of time.
How do you plan? Will you have soon after your launch, for example, new lending or general lending products? And actually, what are your plans in the product sense and time-wise and new markets? So are this a perspective of this year or these are next years? How do you plan it?
So around lending, it's an interesting question. Everybody thinks lending, but if it's not creating value for your target market, then there's no point of putting it in. For high-tech startups specifically, we're all out here raising capital, whether it's an angel investor, friends or family, or VC. So our target is more equity-based than it is on lending. However, there are some cases in which loans make sense, or even factoring, or different things like that. And we have explored the option. And like I said, we have some great third-party providers that can do it at extremely low interest rates and at great timelines. So we're essentially speaking with a lot of loan providers about that. But at the moment, that's not our focus, because we don't think that's what's going to create value for a high-tech startup that wants to innovate.
Okay, Luka, thanks a lot for this conversation, and I wish you the very best of luck with Penta's launch, and I will be happy to talk to you again after.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.